Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It feels like it's been a while since I did a video, but I really don't think it's been all that long, but it feels like it has because there's been a lot going on in my life. Last week my son graduated, my youngest son graduated from high school.
Aiden Michael Coons.
So we were busy planning and celebrating and doing all that kind of stuff last week. And then in the midst of all of that, and why I'm in my bedroom, let me show you. I live in an old house and my plaster ceiling decided to cave in. So I'm in my bedroom at the moment. It's been about 2 weeks since this happened. Literally, my wife and I were in bed. Here's what's left of the bed. We started to hear it crack. Somehow, by the grace of God, jumped out of bed just in time for half the ceiling to completely fall. And if you know anything about plaster ceilings in old houses, they are incredibly heavy. Okay, so since the bedroom is out of commission and we're waiting for the insurance to kick in, my studio has become our makeshift bedroom. Which is fine, but I've given up the studio space and hopefully it won't be lasting very long, but we shall see. Seems like it's been a long time since I made one of these videos, but I honestly think part of it is just because we've been going through so much. Yeah. Okay, so guys, I will sit in my studio slash office now slash bedroom, and the video I want to do is in response to a comment I got on a video or two ago where somebody was asking me about model releases when it comes to stock photography, and I thought, what a great idea for a video. I answered the question, but I thought, I think I can make a video about that. So I want to talk about model releases and why you need them and why they're important and how to do it, and hopefully answer all your questions. So the first thing you need to know is, what is a model release? Well, a model release is a legal document that says basically the model that you photograph is giving you permission to use their likeness in your photos. And in the case of stock photography, that model is allowing you to use their images to sell on the stock agencies. Now, I've been doing stock photography since about 2008, and honestly, I was doing it long before that in the film days, but in the digital age, I started in about 2008, and I started with iStock. So when I started with the iStock platform, I took their model release from their site, and I've been using that one and only that one ever since. I'll show you a copy of it right here. The only thing I do differently when I use a different agency besides iStock is I take the address and the little iStock logo off of it. Other than that, it's a very generic, straightforward who, what, when, where we shot, the date of the shoot, my information, and of course they have to sign it, give a little bit of information from them, and voila, that's all I do. I use the iStock one, leave their logo on it when I send it into them, take it off when I send to any other agency. Now, I think you'll find that in any of the stock agencies, they've all got copies of model releases, plus there's probably various other places online that you can find good legal binding model releases. I'm just showing you the one that I use. Like I said, I've been doing it since 2008. I've been sending it to all the agencies I've ever used, and nobody's ever had a problem with any of them. So one of the questions I think that might pop up for some people is, when do I need a model release? Well, if there's ever a person in your photograph, you're gonna need a model release. If you don't have a model release for the person in your photograph, you're not gonna be able to use it for commercial purposes. You can send in photographs to the stock agency as an editorial image if you don't have a model release. However, the problem with that, and editorial images are fine, but the problem with that is you're not gonna have as many commercial uses for it, so therefore you may not have as much saleability to an image. Okay, so if you have a photograph with a person in it that you want to use for stock photography, or maybe you're setting up a shoot with a person that's going to be in your shot, you know you're going to need a model release. The question is, Will they sign it for you? Here's my simple answer. Yes, they probably will. I've never had anybody question me, what am I signing? I'm very upfront with it. I tell them what I'm doing with it. I'm using your images for stock photography. I need you to sign a release that says you're giving me permission to do that. And a lot of times people will say, well, what is stock photography? And you kind of got to explain that I'm sending these in. People all over the world these days will purchase the images for various things, and I get paid when I do that. So when you explain to them that you're hoping to get paid from the images that you're sending in of them, the question I think is very obvious. What's in it for them? Now, I am a big supporter that if you're going to make money off of their likeness, you need to give them something in return. Their time is just as valuable as yours, probably. So the question is, what are you going to give them? Now, you certainly can simply pay a model. If you went to a modeling agency and hired a model, they would have a set rate and you would pay mileage and travel fees or an agency fee, depending on how the agency is set up, and of course the model's hourly fee. You can simply pay them. And that works very well. But what if you don't have the money to afford a shoot like that? So if you don't have a lot of money and you don't have a big budget to be paying models, what can you do? Well, here's some of the things that I've done over the years that have worked very well and people seem to be happy with it. I did bring a young lady into the studio not too long ago. We did pay her, just gave her a flat rate. She wasn't a professional model, so I think anything to her was a great deal. She was only here for an hour. We specifically shot for stock purposes. I have also approached parents who have cute kids, because cute kids always sell. I've approached parents with a situation like that in exchange for a photo shoot, would you be willing to sign a model release? So what's in it for them is a free photo shoot. Now you might have to do some things for them, portraits of the kids, things that you may not use for stock photography, as well as some of your own stock images. I've done that kind of thing as well. And most parents that I can't actually think of a parent who's ever looked at me like, no, that's crazy, I'm not going to do it. It usually goes over pretty well, maybe just because they're so flattered that you think their kid is cute, but they're getting free photos out of their kids, and believe me, parents love that. Now, the other thing that I've done with great success is when I was shooting a lot of weddings, if I had an attractive couple and was in an attractive location, I might ask the couple, would you be willing to let me shoot some of these images or use some of these images from the wedding for stock photography? You guys would need to sign a model release. And usually when I do something like that, I will give them a discount on the wedding package. I'll add in extra time or maybe do an album for them. Somehow make it worthwhile that they're getting a break on the cost of the wedding photography and I'm getting to use the images for stock photography. Now, sometimes a wedding is a little bit difficult because there's so many people there. Difficult to get a model release for everybody, and if the bride and groom are in your shot and the crowd of people is behind them, you're not going to be able to use that because all the people's faces are recognizable. So you're limited what you can use, but you're certainly going to do some bride and groom shots by themselves throughout the day. Maybe you get the bridal party to sign releases. There's various things that you can do, and depending on your package, I think you can certainly work in some kind of payment to them that makes it worth their while as well. Now, what I have found over the years is that wedding photographs sell very well, kid photographs sell very well, and a lot of the people stuff that I've done have sold better than anything else I shoot. So by and large, people photographs at the stock agencies do much, much, much better. I don't know how much better, but they do a whole lot better than most of the other things that I photograph. So is it worth the effort to get a model release, get them to sign it, do all the extra work that goes along with that? Yeah, absolutely. Now, one thing I will say about, doing a trade or paying somebody to sign a model release so that you can use the images for stock, I would never advise you guys, and I've never done this myself, and I didn't even learn this the hard way. I can just see the writing on the wall of how bad this would be. I would never trade them their services as a model for a promised percentage of the royalties that you might get down the road. I would never get into that because number one, it's just going to be a nightmare to track because, you know, you sell an image here and there, and 6 months later you sell one there and there, and it would just be a nightmare. Plus, the other thing is these images, as long as the style of their clothing or their hair doesn't change, these images may sell for a decade or more. You know, 10 years down the road, you're still sending them 85 cents every once in a while. I just would not recommend doing anything like that. Now, another thing you might be thinking is I'm a little bit leery of approaching people and asking them to pose for me in exchange for a model release, and I would say I totally get that. I'm not usually the person that is like jump out and talk to everybody, although being a photographer has kind of forced me into that. You've got to do it. But I will say this, I've never approached anybody that looks at me like I'm crazy. And in fact, I don't even really know that I've approached anybody that's ever flat out told me no. Most people are very receptive to it. And I think if anybody said no, they wouldn't think you're too weird. I mean, I just think you got to go for it. If you're at all hesitant about it, I think you will be pleasantly surprised the reception you will get from people when you simply ask them and explain what you're doing. Now, I do have a set of business cards that I hand out occasionally. I've got a website, and I think the smartest thing to do when you approach somebody, if they at all think it's creepy, you know, some stranger in the store approached me, you know, give them your card, tell them what you do, tell them I would love to photograph you for stock photography. Here's my website. If you're at all interested, check it out. If you like what you see or you're interested in my work, give me a call. And I would leave it at that. You don't have to make a big deal about it when you initially approach somebody. But the other thing I would suggest is if you are at all leery about approaching strangers, approach friends. Approach people you know to start out. And like I said, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised how receptive people are to it. And the last thing I want to share with you guys is a little story about a model release that I had to get because I photographed a person, and kind of goes in with the paying them and everything. This photo shoot right here is probably my most successful photo shoot ever. This image right here has sold the most all around the world. It doesn't sell quite as much as it used to, but when I first put it up, it just went gangbusters. And this is my son. Easily enough that I could sign a model release form, in which, by the way, if you photograph minors, you're going to have to get mom and dad to sign it. And the model release that I showed has a place for minors, guardians, parents to sign it. So that's pretty self-explanatory. But here's my son. Most successful photo shoot I've ever done as far as stock photography. And my son bargained me out of $20 for that shoot. He's like, Dad, I'm not doing it unless you pay me $20. But it was probably the smartest $20 I've ever spent in a photo shoot because this image has made thousands and thousands. But yeah. Guys, I hope that helped a little bit. I know it was probably short and sweet. If you got questions about model releases or anything, please leave me a comment. If you haven't thought about subscribing yet, please do it right now. I would appreciate it. And I thank you guys for all the new subscribers. I greatly appreciate that. I love your comments. Give me a thumbs up if you would. And I will see you guys very soon. Hopefully I'll get my studio back and it won't be a bedroom for too long. Yeah. Bye, guys.